The galaxy belonged to the Cathara, and everyone knew it. For 3,000 years, these towering predators had ruled over every star system worth claiming. Standing 12 feet tall with muscles like steel cables beneath armored skin, the Cathara were everything evolution could create in a perfect hunter. Their claws could slice through metal. Their teeth could crush bone. Their pack instincts made them unstoppable in battle. Every other species in the galaxy fell into two simple categories: useful servants or fresh meat. The lucky ones became workers, building cities and mining planets for their Cathara masters. The unlucky ones ended up in feeding pens or fighting rings for entertainment. Commander Vextel stood on the bridge of his warship, watching another planet burn below. The species down there had tried to resist. They always did at first. Some fought with primitive weapons. Others tried to hide in caves or underwater cities. A few even attempted diplomacy, offering treasures and knowledge in exchange for mercy. None of it ever mattered. The Cathara always won. "Status report," Vextal growled, his voice like grinding stone. "All major cities destroyed, Commander," replied his lieutenant. "Population centers eliminated. Survivors are being rounded up for processing." Vextal nodded. This was how it always went. Another world added to the Dominion. Another species learned their place in the natural order. The bridge officers worked quietly around him. Most were Cathara, but a few came from client species. Aliens who had earned the right to serve through generations of loyalty. They wore special collars that showed their rank. Everyone else wore slave chains. "Sir, we're receiving a strange signal," reported the communications officer. She was Zilani, one of the bird-like species that had joined the Dominion 50 years ago. "It's coming from the outer system." "Another ship trying to surrender?" Vextal asked without much interest. "No, sir. It's different. The ship design doesn't match any known species. And they're not surrendering. They're asking for help." This got Vextal's attention. In his 40 years of service, no one had ever asked the Cathara for help. They either begged for mercy or prepared to die fighting. "Put it on screen." The main display showed a strange vessel drifting through space. It was clearly damaged, with hull breaches and failing power systems. The design was unlike anything in Cathara databases, smooth curves instead of sharp angles. With no obvious weapons or armor, they're sending another message. "Sir?" A voice filled the bridge, speaking in broken but understandable Galactic Standard. "This is Captain Rodriguez of the human ship Endeavor. We are lost and need assistance. Our navigation systems failed during a test flight. We have injured crew members and limited supplies. Please respond." Vextal's officers looked at each other. Humans? No one had heard of this species before. "Scan their ship," Vextal ordered. The results appeared on his screen moments later. The vessel contained about 200 life forms. They were small, only 6 feet tall on average. Their ship had basic technology, nothing that could threaten a Cathara warship. Most interesting of all, they appeared to be omnivores with no natural weapons. "No claws, no fangs, no armor plating, new prey species," muttered his lieutenant. "They look soft." Vextal studied the data more carefully. These humans had somehow developed space travel despite their obvious physical weaknesses. That suggested intelligence, which could be useful. Smart slaves were always valuable. "Bring them aboard," he decided. "Put them in holding cells for evaluation." "Yes, sir." "Should we destroy their ship?" "No, study it first. We need to understand their technology." The human ship was easy to capture. It offered no resistance as Cathara boarding parties moved through its corridors. The crew huddled together in their bridge, clearly terrified but trying to appear brave. They kept asking questions in their strange language, wanting to know who the Cathara were and what was happening. Vextal watched through security cameras as his soldiers herded the humans into detention cells. They were indeed small and weak-looking, with soft skin and no visible natural weapons. They moved awkwardly in the ship's gravity, clearly not adapted for combat environments, but something bothered him about their eyes. While their bodies showed fear, their eyes were always moving, always watching, always learning. They studied every corridor, every door, every guard, like they were mapping the ship in their minds. "Sir, we've completed our initial scans," reported the science officer. "These humans are definitely omnivores. They eat both plants and meat, but they're not specialized hunters. Their teeth are flat, their claws are tiny, and their muscles are weak compared to proper predators." "What about their intelligence?" "High but not exceptional. similar to the Zelani or Morphics. They've developed basic space travel and computers, but nothing advanced. Vextal nodded. The humans would be classified as Class C prey. Smart enough to be useful workers, but too weak to be dangerous. They would be sold to mining colonies or research facilities. Prepare them for transport to the processing station, he ordered. But first, he wanted to see these creatures for himself. The detention bay held all 200 humans in individual cells. They had organized themselves quickly, with the older ones comforting the younger ones and someone who seemed to be their leader talking quietly to small groups. They had adapted to their situation faster than most species. Vextal entered the bay with a full guard escort. The humans pressed against their cell bars to look at him, and he heard their sharp intakes of breath. Most species had that reaction when they first saw a Kithra warrior in person. "I am Commander Vextal of the Kithra Dominion," he announced. "Your ship has entered our territory. You are now property of the Dominion." One of the humans stepped forward. He was older than the others, with gray hair and steady eyes. "I'm Captain Rodriguez. We're peaceful explorers." "We mean no harm." "Harm?" Vextal laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. "You could not harm us if you tried. Look at yourselves. You have no claws, no fangs, no armor. You are prey animals that learn to use tools." The captain's expression didn't change. "What will happen to us?" "You will be evaluated and assigned work based on your abilities. Serve well and you will live. Resist and you will feed the arena beasts." Vextal expected begging or crying. Most species broke down at this point. Instead, the humans just looked at each other and nodded slightly, like they were sharing some silent communication. "We understand," Captain Rodriguez said finally. Something in his tone made Vextal pause. There was no fear in it. No desperation, just acceptance, but not the broken acceptance of a defeated enemy. Something else. Something that made the Kithera commander's instincts whisper warnings. He pushed the feeling aside. These humans were clearly harmless. The scans proved it. They were just another weak species that would learn to serve the Dominion, like all the others. As Vextal left the detention bay, he missed the way the humans immediately began talking in quiet voices, sharing observations about the ship's layout, guard rotations, and security systems. He didn't notice how they had already begun organizing themselves into groups with different specialties. Most importantly, he didn't understand the look in their eyes when they watched his guards. It wasn't fear or hatred. It was something far more dangerous. It was the look of creatures learning how to hunt. Dr. Sarah Chen pressed her face against the cold bars of her cell and watched the Kithara guards patrol the corridor. 3 days had passed since their capture, and she had memorized every detail of their routine. Guard change every 4 hours, security checks every 30 minutes, meal delivery at set intervals. The humans had been transported to a research facility on Kythera Prime, the species' homeworld. The building was huge, filled with laboratories and holding pens for hundreds of different alien species. Most were being studied before being sold as slaves or food. Sarah was a xenobiologist from the Endeavor science team. She had spent her career studying alien life forms, but now she was the one being studied. Every day, Kithera researchers took groups of humans to their labs for testing. They measured everything: strength, intelligence, reflexes, pain tolerance. The tests weren't just scientific. They were cruel. Sarah watched through the transparent walls as Kithera scientists forced other species to fight each other while they took notes. They studied how different aliens reacted to fear, pain, and desperation. To them, this wasn't torture. It was research. "Chen," whispered Dr. Marcus Webb from the cell next to hers. "They're coming back." Heavy footsteps echoed down the corridor. 3 Kithera guards approached, their claws clicking on the metal floor. Behind them walked Dr. Thexmore, the facility's head researcher. He was smaller than the warriors, but just as frightening, with bright yellow eyes that never showed emotion. "Test subjects 14 through 26, Dr. Thexmore announced. "Report for psychological evaluation." Sarah's cell was number 18. The guards unlocked the doors and herded 13 humans down the corridor. Sarah recognized most of them: engineers, scientists, and crew members from the Endeavor. They had all become friends during their months in space. The laboratory was a large white room filled with monitoring equipment. In the center stood several metal tables with restraints. But what made Sarah's blood freeze was what she saw on the far side of the room. Bodies. Human bodies lying on tables, cut open and partially dissected. "Today we study emotional responses to loss," Dr. Thexmore explained to his assistants. Previous tests show these humans form strong social bonds. We will observe how they react when those bonds are severed. Sarah realized with horror what was about to happen. This wasn't just a test. It was an execution disguised as science. The guards grabbed Dr. Emily Santos, a young botanist who had joined the mission fresh out of university. She was barely 25, with kind eyes and a gentle voice. She had spent the past 3 days comforting the younger crew members and sharing stories to keep their spirits up. "No," Sarah said, stepping forward. "Please take me instead." Dr. Thexmore looked at her with mild interest. "Fascinating. The subject offers to sacrifice herself for another. Make note of this behavior." The guard strapped Emily to one of the metal tables. She didn't scream or beg. Instead, she looked at her fellow humans and smiled. "Remember my garden," she said quietly. "I showed you pictures of my garden back home." Dr. Thexmore raised a surgical blade. Note the subject's attempt to provide comfort to her group even while facing death. Remarkable social cohesion for a prey species. That was when something changed in Sarah's mind. A switch flipped that could never be turned back. Emily wasn't just her colleague. She wasn't just another human. She was family, and this monster was about to murder her while taking notes. Sarah's training as a scientist included courses on hostile environments and emergency situations. She had studied predator behavior extensively. Most importantly, she had learned that the best defense against a predator was to become something it didn't expect. As Dr. Thexmore began his work, Sarah memorized every detail of the room. The placement of surgical tools, the location of security cameras, the way the guards stood with their weapons lowered, clearly not expecting any resistance from weak prey animals. Emily died quietly, her eyes fixed on her friends' faces. Dr. Thexmore and his assistants made careful observations about how the other humans reacted. They noted the tears, the quiet sobs, the way the group huddled together for comfort. What they didn't notice was the way those same humans were now looking at them. The tears were real, but behind them was something else. Something cold and calculating. "Excellent data," Dr. Thexmore announced. "Tomorrow we will test their responses to prolonged psychological pressure. Return them to their cells." The guards herded the humans back through the corridors, but Sarah wasn't thinking about her cell anymore. She was thinking about the medical equipment in the lab, the computer terminals, the security systems she had observed. Most importantly, she was thinking about the fact that the Kithra had just made their first real mistake. They had shown humans exactly what they were capable of, and they had assumed their victims would remain helpless. That night, Sarah shared her observations with the others through whispered conversations between cells. Dr. Webb had noticed that the guards' weapons were connected to their armor through electronic links. Engineer Rodriguez had mapped the facility's power distribution system. Communications Officer Kim had figured out the lock mechanisms on their cells. None of them talked about revenge. That would have been emotional, and emotions led to mistakes. Instead, they talked about problems and solutions. How to disable security systems. How to access computer networks. How to turn the facility's own equipment against their captors. They were thinking like scientists and engineers, and that made them far more dangerous than any predator. The next morning, Dr. Thexmore selected another group for testing. This time, Sarah made sure she was included. She volunteered quickly, along with several others who had been part of their midnight planning session. "Interesting," the Kithera researcher mused. "They seem eager to participate today. Perhaps they are adapting to their new situation." In the laboratory, Sarah positioned herself near a computer terminal, while the guards focused on preparing the testing area. The Kithera were so confident in their superiority that they didn't bother watching their test subjects carefully. Sarah had spent years working with alien computer systems during her research. The Kithera technology was advanced but followed logical patterns. While Dr. Thexmore explained today's experiment to his assistants, she quietly accessed the terminal's basic functions: security protocols, environmental controls, emergency systems. The Kithara had designed their facility to contain hundreds of dangerous alien species. But they had never imagined that their test subjects might be intelligent enough to understand their own containment systems. When the alarm started blaring, Dr. Thexmore assumed it was a malfunction. The lights went out, then came back on in emergency mode. The laboratory doors locked automatically. "What is happening?" he demanded. Sarah stood up from the computer terminal. We're learning, she said calmly. The other humans moved with coordinated precision. Engineer Rodriguez disabled the guards' weapons using an electromagnetic pulse from the medical equipment. Dr. Webb released a sedative gas through the ventilation system. Communications Officer Kim overrode the facility's communication networks. Dr. Thexmore reached for an emergency alarm, but Sarah was already there. Her small, weak human hands grabbed a surgical scalpel. Her soft, prey animal reflexes drove the blade into the Kithra's throat with perfect precision. Note this behavior, she whispered, as the alien researcher collapsed. The subjects have learned to hunt. The escape took less than an hour. 17 Kithra guards and researchers died. Most of them killed by their own security systems turned against them. The humans freed every alien prisoner in the facility and disappeared into the city before backup forces arrived. News of the incident spread quickly through Kithera space. Prey animals had killed predators. Weak creatures had outsmarted their captors. Soft little aliens had turned advanced technology into weapons. The Dominion's leaders dismissed it as a fluke. The humans had gotten lucky, nothing more. They were still just prey animals with delusions. But deep in the city's underground tunnels, Sarah Chen and her fellow humans were studying captured Kithera equipment and planning their next move. They had learned something important about their captors. The Kithera were strong and fast and dangerous, but they weren't smart enough to realize when they were being hunted. Admiral Korextol commanded the largest fleet in Kithara history. 300 warships, each one capable of destroying entire cities. The combined firepower could crack planets in half. Nothing in the galaxy had ever stood against such might. As his flagship approached the human homeworld called Earth, Korextal felt confident this would be the shortest campaign of his career. The prey animals had gotten lucky once, killing a few researchers in a lab. Now they would learn what happened to species that dared attack the Dominion. "Sir, we're receiving transmissions from the planet," reported his communications officer. "Surrender terms?" Korextal asked. "No, sir. They're talking to each other, coordinating defensive positions." Korextal laughed. "They think they can fight us? Show me their fleet." The main screen displayed Earth's orbital space. What Korextal saw made him pause. There were ships everywhere. Hundreds of them. They were clearly human in design, with the same smooth curves as the Endeavor. But they were larger and obviously armed. "How many ships?" he demanded. "Scans show approximately 800 vessels, sir. But they're strange. The designs don't match any known military patterns." Korextal studied the display more carefully. The human ships looked wrong. Some appeared to be converted cargo vessels with weapons bolted onto their hulls. Others looked like they had been built from spare parts. None of them followed proper military design principles. Pathetic, he decided. They've turned civilian ships into toys. This will be even easier than expected. But as the Kithera fleet moved closer, more details became clear. The human ships weren't arranged in standard battle formations. Instead, they were scattered throughout the system in seemingly random patterns. Some hid behind asteroids. Others drifted with their engines off, pretending to be debris. "Admiral, we're detecting weapon signatures," the tactical officer reported. "But they're unusual." "Explain." "Many of their ships carry nuclear weapons, sir, but they're not using them as missiles. They've converted them into mines and suicide bombs." Korextal's confidence wavered slightly. "Nuclear suicide attacks? What kind of insane species would willingly destroy themselves in battle?" "All ships maintain formation," he ordered. "Prepare for standard assault pattern." The first sign of trouble came when the Kythra fleet reached Earth's outer asteroid belt. What appeared to be a small human scout ship suddenly accelerated directly toward the flagship. Korextal's gunners destroyed it easily, but the explosion was far larger than expected. "Nuclear detonation, sir." The ship was carrying a weapon with a yield of 50 megatons. Before Korextal could respond, more human ships began their suicide runs. They came from every direction, hidden among the asteroids and debris. The Kithera fleet's superior firepower meant most were destroyed before reaching their targets, but not all. 3 Kithera destroyers vanished in nuclear fire. A cruiser took heavy damage when a human ship rammed it at full speed. Another vessel was crippled by what appeared to be a converted mining laser that had been upgraded far beyond safe operating limits. "What are they doing?" demanded the tactical officer. "This isn't how space battles work." Korextal was beginning to understand. The humans weren't fighting a proper battle. They were fighting like desperate animals with nothing to lose. They used every dirty trick, every unexpected tactic, every weapon they could improvise, sir, detecting massive energy buildup on the planet's surface. Earth's continents lit up with thousands of bright points. Missile silos, railgun platforms, and orbital defense cannons all opened fire simultaneously. But instead of targeting the fleet directly, the weapons created a wall of projectiles and energy beams that forced the Kythera ships into predictable evasion patterns, right into the path of more suicide ships. They're hurting us, Corextal realized. They're using their planetary defenses to control our movement. The human strategy became clear as the battle continued. They had turned their entire star system into a trap. Every asteroid had been mined. Every piece of debris might hide a weapon. Every seemingly disabled ship could suddenly explode or ram into a Kythera vessel. Worst of all, the humans fought without honor. They used electronic warfare to jam communications. They sent false surrender signals to lure ships into ambushes. They even broadcast recordings of Kythera death screams to confuse and demoralize the fleet. "Admiral, we've lost 47 ships," reported the damage control officer. "Enemy losses are estimated at 300 vessels." "Then we're winning," Corextal insisted. "Yes, sir, but they're still fighting. Even after losing most of their fleet, the survivors continue attacking." This was what truly frightened the Kythera admiral. Any normal species would have surrendered after losing half their forces. The humans had lost 3/4 of their ships and they were still coming. The final assault on Earth itself became a nightmare. The planet's surface was covered with defensive positions that had been built with frightening speed. The humans had somehow unified their entire species and turned their world into a fortress in just a few months. Kythera landing forces found themselves fighting an enemy that refused to follow the rules of warfare. Human soldiers used camouflage and ambush tactics. They fought from underground tunnels and hidden bunkers. They booby-trapped their own cities and used civilian buildings as weapon factories. Most disturbing of all, the humans seemed to learn from every encounter. Tactics that worked against them once never worked again. They adapted their strategies faster than any species in recorded history. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Earth," the communications officer announced. "It's from their military commander." "Put it through." A human face appeared on the screen. It was scarred and dirty, clearly broadcasting from a battlefield, but the eyes were calm and intelligent. "This is General Harrison of Earth Defense Command," the human said. "We're prepared to discuss terms." Finally, Corextal thought. They were ready to surrender. "You will submit to Dominion authority immediately," he replied. "Your resistance has cost us ships, but you cannot win." The human general smiled, and something about that expression made Corextal's blood run cold. "You misunderstand," General Harrison said. "We're not surrendering. We're offering you the chance to leave our system before we finish studying your technology." "Studying our technology? Your primitives with improvised weapons." "Were," the general corrected. 12 hours ago we were primitives, but you've been very educational. We've learned how your shields work, how your engines function, and most importantly, how your weapons target their enemies." As if to demonstrate, one of the remaining human ships suddenly appeared directly behind the Kythera flagship. It had somehow penetrated the fleet's defenses without being detected. "Impossible," Corextal whispered. "Your cloaking technology is quite good," General Harrison continued, "but we've improved it, along with your shield generators, your weapon systems, and your navigation computers. Thank you for the lesson." The human ship opened fire with weapons that looked exactly like Kythera plasma cannons, but somehow more powerful. "The flagship's shields collapsed in seconds. Retreat!" Corextal ordered desperately. "All ships, emergency withdrawal." As the surviving Kythera vessels fled the Earth system, Admiral Corextal stared at the tactical display in shock. They had started the battle with 300 ships. They were leaving with less than 100. But the numbers weren't what terrified him. It was the realization that the humans had been experimenting during the entire fight. They had used the battle as a learning opportunity, testing captured Kythera technology and improving it in real time. "Sir, we're receiving one final transmission from Earth." General Harrison's face appeared again. "Admiral, we want you to deliver a message to your government. Humanity formally declares war on the Kythera Dominion. We'll give you a head start, but we're coming." "You lost most of your fleet," Corextal protested. "You can't threaten the Dominion with a few surviving ships." "These ships?" The general gestured to something off-screen. "These were just the prototypes. We've been mass-producing the improved versions while you were attacking. Check your long-range sensors. Corextal's tactical officer went pale. Sir, I'm detecting thousands of new ships in Earth orbit. They're using advanced Kythera technology, but the designs are different. Different how? Faster, sir. More heavily armed. And they're launching now. Through the bridge windows, Corextal could see streams of light leaving Earth's atmosphere. Hundreds of human warships built with stolen Kythera technology, but designed with human ingenuity. As his fleet jumped to hyperspace, Admiral Corextal sent an emergency message to the Dominion High Command. The humans weren't just another prey species. They were something the galaxy had never seen before. They were predators that learned from their prey. Supreme Overlord Thrakvon had ruled the Kythera Dominion for 50 years. In that time, he had overseen the conquest of 47 star systems and the subjugation of dozens of species. Never once had he faced a serious threat to Kythera supremacy. Now he stood in the Dominion's war room, staring at holographic displays that showed human fleets attacking his territory from 6 different directions. In just 8 months, these impossible prey animals had somehow become the greatest threat in galactic history. Status report, he demanded. General Vorthak. His military commander gestured to the tactical display. We've lost the Kalani system, the Morphic colonies, and 3 frontier worlds. Human forces are advancing on multiple fronts. How many ships do they have? Unknown, Overlord. Our intelligence estimates keep changing. They appear to be building new vessels faster than we can count them. This was the part that made no sense to Thrakvon. 8 months ago, the humans had barely possessed space travel. Now they commanded fleets that rivaled the entire Kythera military. Their technology had advanced centuries in less than a year. What about our client species? Thrakvon asked. Surely they remain loyal. General Vorthak's expression grew uncomfortable. Several have. Joined the humans, Overlord. Joined them? Impossible. We are their masters. The humans offer something different, sir. They call it alliance instead of conquest. They share their technology and ask for cooperation rather than submission. Thrakvon's claws extended involuntarily. The idea of treating inferior species as equals was disgusting. Which species have betrayed us? The Zilani were first. Then the Morphics, the Crystalline Collective, and the Reef Builders. Most recently, the Hive Mothers declared neutrality and asked both sides to leave their space. Each name hit Thrakvon like a physical blow. These were species that Kythera had dominated for centuries. The Zilani had served as scouts and translators. The Morphics had provided technical expertise. The Crystalline Collective had maintained the Dominion's computer networks. Why? He asked. What could the humans possibly offer that we cannot? Respect, sir. And survival. Before Thrakvon could demand an explanation, alarms began blaring throughout the command center. Emergency lights bathed the room in red as technicians worked frantically at their stations. Report, Thrakvon commanded. Human infiltration teams have breached the orbital defense platforms above 3 core worlds, announced the communications officer. They're not attacking the defenses, sir. They're stealing them. This was the humans' most infuriating tactic. Instead of simply destroying Kythera installations, they studied them, improved them, and then used the enhanced technology against their former owners. Every battle gave them new weapons and capabilities. How did they penetrate our security? Unknown, Overlord. The infiltration teams appear to be using Kythera stealth technology, but enhanced beyond our original specifications. Thrakvon felt his world tilting. The humans were using Kythera technology better than the Kythera themselves. Somehow these soft prey animals understood his people's own inventions more completely than their creators did. Sir, incoming priority transmission from Admiral Corextal. The Admiral's image appeared on the main screen. He looked exhausted and frightened, broadcasting from what appeared to be a damaged ship. Overlord, my fleet has been destroyed. The humans attacked the Viridian system with forces we've never seen before. What kind of forces? Biological weapons, sir. They've somehow engineered viruses that target Kythera DNA specifically. My crew is dying, Overlord. Thrakvon felt ice forming in his stomach. Biological warfare was forbidden by every galactic treaty. It was considered too dangerous even for the Kythera to attempt. That's impossible. No species has that level of biological expertise. They do now, sir. They captured our research facilities on Kepler-7, all our genetic databases, all our biological samples. They've turned our own science against us. The transmission cut to static as Admiral Corextal's ship apparently lost power. Thrakvon stood in the war room. surrounded by displays showing the collapse of his empire, and tried to understand how everything had gone so wrong so quickly. "Overlord," General Vorthak said quietly, "there's something else. We've intercepted human communications and we've learned something about their strategy." "Explain." "They're not just fighting us, sir. They're studying us. Every battle, every encounter, every piece of technology they capture, it all feeds into what they call the database. They're treating this war like a scientific experiment." "What kind of experiment?" "Learning how to hunt apex predators." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Thrakovan had spent his entire life believing that the Cathara were the ultimate evolution of predatory species. Strong, fast, intelligent, and ruthlessly efficient. The idea that something could hunt them was impossible. But the evidence was overwhelming. Human forces didn't just defeat Cathara armies. They dissected them. They studied Cathara tactics, psychology, and biology with scientific precision. Then they used that knowledge to engineer perfect counters to every Cathara advantage. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Earth." "Put it through." A human face appeared on the screen. Thrakvan recognized her from intelligence reports. Dr. Sarah Chen, one of the escaped prisoners who had started this nightmare. She sat in what appeared to be an advanced laboratory, surrounded by equipment that looked disturbingly familiar. "Supreme Overlord Thrakvan," she said politely. "I'm Dr. Chen, Director of Xenobiological Warfare for the Human Alliance. I have a proposition for you." "Humans do not make propositions to their superiors," Thrakvan snarled. Dr. Chen's expression didn't change. "With respect, Overlord, you are no longer our superior. You are our research subject." Behind her, Thrakvan could see displays showing detailed biological diagrams.
Cathara anatomy, genetics, and neurology, laid out in perfect detail.
The humans had learned everything about his species. "What do you want?" he asked. "Surrender. Complete and unconditional. Your species will be relocated to reservation worlds where you can live in peace. In exchange, we'll stop the biological warfare program." "Reservation worlds? You would cage us like animals?" "No," Dr. Chen corrected. "We would give you the same choice you gave everyone else. Serve willingly or be forced to serve. The difference is that we won't eat you." Thrakvan's rage boiled over. "We are the apex predators of this galaxy. We have ruled for 3,000 years. "Ruled," Dr. Chen agreed. "Past tense. Your reign ended the moment you taught us that intelligence is more important than physical strength." She gestured to something off-screen, and new images appeared on the transmission. Kethra worlds under human occupation. But instead of the devastation Thrakvan expected, he saw thriving cities. The conquered populations appeared to be working alongside human forces. "This is impossible," he whispered. "We're better at conquest than you were," Dr. Chen explained. "We don't rule through fear. We rule through cooperation. Species that join us willingly receive full citizenship and technological advancement. Those that resist are neutralized and relocated. And the Kithara? You taught us that predators must be completely eliminated or they will eventually return to hunting. So we've developed a comprehensive solution." The transmission ended, leaving Thrakvan staring at a blank screen. Around him, the war room continued its frantic activity as more reports came in of human victories and Kithara defeats. "Sir," General Vorthak said carefully, "what are your orders?" Thrakvan looked at the tactical displays showing his crumbling empire. Human fleets were closing in on the core worlds. Biological weapons were spreading through his remaining forces. Client species were defecting faster than they could be replaced. For the first time in his life, the supreme overlord of the Kithara Dominion felt like prey. "Send a message to all remaining fleets," he said finally. "Full retreat to the homeworld. We make our final stand there." "And if they offer surrender terms again?" Thrakvan extended his claws and stared at the display showing human ships advancing on all fronts. These creatures had done something no other species had ever managed. They had made the Kethra afraid. "Then we die fighting," he decided, as befits predators. What he didn't realize was that the humans had already anticipated this decision. They had studied Kithra psychology extensively and knew exactly how a cornered predator would react. They were ready for the final hunt. The final battle for Cathara Prime began at dawn on the third moon of Veltar. Supreme Overlord Thrakvan stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching human fleets emerge from hyperspace in perfect formation. They came from every direction, surrounding the homeworld like a tightening noose. "Fleet status," he commanded. 800 ships remaining, Overlord, reported General Vorthak. All core world defenses are online. Planetary shields at maximum power. Thrakvan nodded. The Kithara had spent 3,000 years building the ultimate fortress around their homeworld. Orbital weapons platforms, energy shields, automated defense systems, everything needed to protect the heart of their empire. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. Dr. Sarah Chen's face appeared on the main screen. She looked older now, hardened by a year of warfare. Behind her, Thrakvan could see other humans working at stations filled with advanced equipment. Much of it looked like improved Kithara technology. Supreme Overlord, she said formally, this is your final opportunity to surrender. Lay down your weapons and submit to Alliance authority. Never, Thrakvan snarled. We die before we kneel to prey animals. Dr. Chen nodded as if she had expected this answer. Then we'll proceed with Extinction Protocol Omega. The transmission ended. Thrakvan felt a chill at those words. The humans had developed specific protocols for dealing with his species, like they were just another problem to be solved. All ships attack formation, he ordered. For the glory of the Dominion. The Kithara fleet charged toward the human forces with desperate courage. They were outnumbered 3-1, but they were fighting for their homeworld. Every warrior knew this was their last battle. What happened next shattered every assumption about space warfare. The human ships didn't engage in direct combat. Instead, they released thousands of small drones that swarmed through space like metal insects. The drones were too small for most weapons to target effectively, but they carried payloads that began attaching to Kithara ships. What are those things? Demanded General Vorthak. Unknown, sir. They appear to be some kind of boarding pods. But they weren't boarding pods. They were worse. The devices attached to Kithara ship hulls and began releasing clouds of microscopic robots. Nanites. The tiny machines ate through armor, severed control cables, and infiltrated computer systems. Within minutes, Kithara ships began losing power and drifting helplessly through space. They're turning our own ships against us, Thrakvan realized. The nanites weren't just destroying the vessels. They were taking control of them. Kithara warships suddenly turned their weapons on their own fleet. Sir, planetary defenses report similar infiltration. The nanites are spreading through our shield generators and weapon platforms. The humans had found the perfect weapon against a technological species. Instead of destroying Kithara equipment, they simply took it over. Every defense became another weapon pointed at its former owners. Fall back to the surface, Thrakvan ordered. We'll make our stand on the homeworld itself. But as his shuttle descended toward Kithara Prime, the Overlord saw that the humans had anticipated this move too. The planet's surface was already under attack, but not from orbital bombardment. Instead, human forces were using biological warfare on a scale that defied imagination. Sir, we're detecting massive atmospheric changes, reported the pilot. The humans have released some kind of aerosol compound into our air. Through the shuttle's windows, Thrakvan could see Kithara cities going dark. Not destroyed, simply emptied. The biological weapon was specifically designed to target Kithara physiology, rendering his people unconscious but alive. They're not trying to kill us, he realized. They're trying to capture us. The shuttle landed in the capital city's central plaza, surrounded by thousands of unconscious Kithara civilians. Human soldiers moved through the streets, checking on the fallen aliens and administering medical care. They wore full environmental suits to protect themselves from their own biological weapons. A squad of humans approached the shuttle. Their leader removed her helmet, revealing Dr. Chen's familiar face. Supreme Overlord Thrakvan, she said as Kithara guards emerged from the shuttle. You're under arrest for crimes against sentient beings. You cannot judge us, Thrakvan protested. We are the apex predators of this galaxy. Were, Dr. Chen corrected. Past tense, she gestured to the empty city around them. Your species is now effectively extinct as a military force. Every Kithara world has been captured. Your fleets are destroyed or converted. Your population is in custody. Then kill us and be done with it. We're not like you, Dr. Chen said. We don't commit genocide. But we also don't allow dangerous predators to remain free. As human soldiers secured the plaza, Dr. Chen explained the Alliance's final solution to the Kithara problem. The species would be relocated to isolated worlds where they could live peacefully under human supervision. Their aggressive instincts would be controlled through genetic therapy. Their technology would be confiscated to prevent future wars. "You're turning us into pets," Thrakvon accused. "We're turning you into what you should have been all along. A species that contributes to galactic civilization instead of destroying it." Over the following months, the human plan unfolded with terrifying efficiency. Every Cathera in the galaxy was rounded up and processed through rehabilitation centers. Their aggressive tendencies were modified through careful genetic adjustment. Their predatory instincts were redirected toward useful pursuits like exploration and research. The process wasn't cruel, but it was absolute. The Cathera who emerged from human treatment were still recognizably the same species, but they no longer felt the need to dominate or hunt. They had been transformed from apex predators into productive citizens. Meanwhile, the galaxy watched in amazement as the Human Alliance restructured galactic civilization. The old hierarchy of predator and prey was replaced with a system based on cooperation and mutual benefit. Species that had lived in fear for millennia suddenly found themselves free to develop their own cultures and technologies. Former Cathera-client species like the Zilani and Morphix became full members of the Alliance, their unique abilities valued and respected. Even the most primitive cultures were offered protection and technological advancement without strings attached. The transformation wasn't without resistance. A few Cathara holdouts tried to rebuild their empire in distant star systems. Human response teams dealt with these threats quickly and efficiently, using the same overwhelming technological superiority that had won the war. Dr. Sarah Chen, now Director General of the Human Alliance, stood in her office overlooking the new galactic capital. Through her window, she could see ships from dozens of different species coming and going peacefully. The sight would have been impossible just 2 years ago. Final report from the Outer Rim territories, announced her assistant, a young Zilani named Kreshital. The last Cathera resistance cell has been neutralized. All surviving members are in custody and scheduled for rehabilitation. "Any casualties?" Dr. Chen asked. "None, Director. The nanite swarms disabled their ships before they could engage our forces." Dr. Chen nodded. The humans had perfected their warfare techniques to the point where they could defeat any enemy without significant losses. It was a level of military efficiency that would have impressed even the Cathera. What about the relocation program? On schedule. The modified Cathara populations are adapting well to their new worlds. Several groups have already begun contributing to Alliance research projects. Dr. Chen smiled slightly. The former apex predators were now working alongside their former prey, using their intelligence and physical capabilities for peaceful purposes. It was perhaps the most complete victory in galactic history. "Director," Kreshital said carefully, "may I ask a question?" "Of course." "The other species are grateful for what humanity has done, but some are also concerned. You defeated the Cathera so completely that many wonder if you might someday turn on the rest of us." Dr. Chen turned from the window to face her assistant. It was a fair question. Humanity had demonstrated capabilities that terrified even their allies. They had shown that they could defeat any enemy, control any technology, and solve any problem through applied intelligence and ruthless efficiency. "Tell them this," she said finally. "We didn't fight the Cathera because we wanted to rule the galaxy. We fought them because they threatened everything we care about. As long as the other species remain peaceful and cooperative, they have nothing to fear from us. And if they don't remain peaceful?" Dr. Chen's expression grew cold. "Then they'll learn the same lesson the Cathera did. Intelligence is the ultimate evolutionary advantage, and humanity has more of it than any species in the galaxy." As Kreshital left to deliver the message, Dr. Chen returned to her window. The galaxy was at peace for the first time in millennia. The predator-prey dynamic that had shaped civilization for eons was over. The apex predators had been replaced by something far more dangerous. A species that treated warfare as a science and victory as an inevitable result of superior planning. The galaxy had spent 3,000 years fearing the wrong predators,